Well, as I said earlier, just half an hour to go in the program today, so we've got a lot of material to cover in a very short period of time, and obviously we never get to it all. I may have to start doing an online presentation following the show where we just continue for a couple of more hours through the day, but then you wouldn't be able to hear the great one, Rush Limbaugh, except he calls Mark Levin the great one. One of them obviously is an imposter. 9:34. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX, newsradio1310.com, 71. And I wanted to remind you about my friend Dr. Eric F. Jones, who has a holistic. There you go. I just invented another word. Holistic systemic approach to wellness. He's been practicing since 1993 with master's and doctoral degrees in marriage and family therapy. Dr. Eric F. Jones uses methods of alternative healing, sound waves, naturopathy, medicinal herbs, nutrition, intellectual cognitive self regulation, and napathy. These can help remedy and manage mental, emotional, physical, and also spiritual challenges. Currently accepting new patients, and Dr. Jones has evening and Saturday appointments available. His telephone number is 731 7178. And I need to remind you, he's also on Facebook. Eric F. Jones, PhD, mental health and wellness therapist. And if you're looking at Facebook, he spells Eric with a C. 736-0300. That's 736-0300. You're up next. You're on the air on Top Story.
Good morning, Bill. Though the regular news media won't tell you, Mrs. Obama took her points for her speech from Elizabeth Doyle, so she's a plagiarist at the same time. On another point, would it be legal to have a GoFundMe account for Justice Ginsburg so that the day after Donald Trump wins, she can be packed up and out the door, and thereby giving Donald Trump 2 Supreme Court judges to appoint? Thank you very much.
I'm a little worried, by the way, because I understand New Zealand is a beautiful country, and she's going to sully it to no end.
She'd be away from us.
Well, that's a very good point. Thank you very much for the telephone call. 9:36. Steve Millington went on vacation in New Zealand, so after he did, he told me all about it. So what I did is I went to the computer, looked it up, and I hit the images thing, and I got to tell you, it is beautiful countryside. Now, on the other hand, if there might be some of these places we could send her off to, maybe New Guinea, and she could live with some of the ancient tribes there because she'd probably get into that headhunting and some of those other things they may still be practicing. Not that we're trying to disparage headhunting, I mean, it's obviously, according to liberals, it's like any other religion out there. It's as equal as all of the others. It's 74 according to some forecast, or some people telling me right now it's 74, but the wind must be blowing by the radio station because we just went to 72 and 70. We're on our way to 100 before the day is over. So a lot of dry, hot weather out there right now. Here's a couple of stories from the AP Wire. Number one of the major routes going to Yellowstone is currently apparently closed because of a fire that is burning, and it is also a fire that tore through a mobile home park in Utah. Then I've got this: 175 firefighters supported by airplanes dropping retardant, and helicopters have slowed a wildfire burning in grass and sagebrush 15 miles east of Boise. Officials say the fire is about 7 square miles in size. It destroyed a barn and 2 other outbuildings. So far, maybe not a lot of property damage there yet. We've been fairly, up to this point, we haven't had a lot to deal with in Idaho this year with wildfires. Randy Staples was mentioning the other day, though, that it's gotten a lot drier, and that doesn't mean we're by any means out of the woods. No pun intended there. So I was at an event. We did our McCash for Kids event. Benito and I happened to be at the Jerome McDonald's on Monday night, and Mike Damer dropped in, and we were talking for a few minutes. And as I understand it, from what he was telling me, some ranchers in some parts of the West are now saying that they're not sure that the BLM can get the job done with firefighting. Now, it may be all they have to do is get a lawyer and incorporate and create their own volunteer fire brigades. If they do that, can they do a better job than the BLM, or will the government try and squash them because the government doesn't like someone horning in on its territory? We have a caller with us at 72 right now. You're on the air at 9:38.
Yeah, Bill, earlier you were talking about bumper stickers, and one of the reasons I don't put bumper stickers on my car is they're very permanent. that I know of, and they have one message, and they say that message, and that's all they say. Well, when you were talking about that, I got the idea, there's a lot of LED technology out there. What they need to do is come up with a progressive liberal bumper sticker that's made like those scrolling signs. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And so what they can do is they can, on a daily basis, change their message. And so they can change their bumper sticker depending on what their current message is. As they change their messages every day.
That's like an old Matt Helm movie where Dean Martin had a station wagon and there was a message flashing across the back, and it would change depending on the circumstances.
Right. And so that would be for the liberals. So as their message and their target group changes, they can change their bumper sticker.
Thank you for the call. He's spot on when he says that you can't get these dang things off the car. I had a Christine O'Donnell bumper sticker on my car that it took me years to scrape off. That was I put it on there 6 years ago, and I finally I couldn't get the Romney bumper sticker off, so I covered it up with something else for this year. Put a Labrador bumper sticker over it. And then I had my own bumper stickers that mention my old website, and I've had to cover those up too. So now I've just got layers of bumper stickers. And that goo you buy that's supposed to work, well, yeah, that's a promise. It's not fact. I'd like to remind you that the prodigal doctor is expected to return to Twin Falls next week. Actually, any day now. Dr. Jonathan Tripp and his family have been doing some mission work in Nicaragua. Now, I don't know if he's back in the rotation to be with us in studio on Wednesday, but he is going to come in at some point, perhaps another day, and brief us on his trip and give us all the details of what it was like to be there in the middle of a jungle and actually ministering to the needs of people who obviously have very, very little in life. They would be glad to have, I guess, perhaps the worst home in the worst town in our part of the country compared to what many of them live in now. 944. Of course, we get together with a doctor or one of his medical associates from Tripp Family Medicine every Wednesday between 8:30 and 9 o'clock in the morning, discussing medical issues. It also gives you an opportunity to telephone and get a little medical advice from a friendly voice over the air, and it won't cost you a thing. And we call it Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine. They're still looking for new patients, and they can generally see you on the same day if you have a medical issue. The office is located on Fillmore Street, directly across from the main post office in Twin Falls. It's 73, coming up on 945. I was talking a little bit about the federal government and its activities here in Western lands. And fighting fires is one of those big things that government apparently is charged with doing, but I guess there's some question about how well they do it any longer. I came across this as well. In a related story, as they say on TV, the Daily Signal has this. Lawyers make millions off taxpayers' Endangered Species Act as ranchers try to live with rare bird. I'm jumping down about halfway down page 1. The writer says in the past few years, the Gunnison sage grouse population not only has stabilized but increased in part of southwestern Colorado where they're concentrated. It says, even so, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service saw fit to list the species as threatened under the Endangered Act in November 2014. Kent Holsinger, a natural resources lawyer based in Denver, says he sees a perverse set of incentives at work that allow green groups such as Wild Earth Guardians, a nonprofit environmental group, to file suits that ultimately work against the bird's environment and the local community. People are making a lot of money off of this environmentalism. Who knew? Maybe back in college I should have studied that instead. And then there's a picture of a sage grouse on page 2 here. Of course, again, one of God's ugliest creations. You're next. You're on the air with Bill Colley at 946 on Top Story. Go ahead.
Good morning, Bill.
Morning.
You'd heard from a lot of guys this morning. I was waiting for a lady to talk, so I thought, well, I'll throw my 2 cents in.
Go ahead.
I think what Trump needs to do, one of the things he needs to do is put Laura Ingraham out and let her speak to a lot of ladies' groups. She's articulate. She is a very, very wise person, and enjoyed her thought process again last night. I think it would be an advisable thing because we're going to have a bunch of men that will be voting for Trump And some of their wives may be on the fence still because thinking that a woman president would be great. Definitely the wrong woman. Definitely the wrong woman. But anyway, just my thought process this morning, and I was so disappointed in Cruz. So disappointed.
Do you know that that there's one talk show host in Idaho who's actually had an arm around Laura Ingraham?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Am I talking to him?
You are.
That's wonderful because I thoroughly enjoy her, and I just think she needs to be out there speaking to women. And I'm seeing too many young women and too many women, even in the grocery stores. They've got their iPhones and they're trying to buy groceries, and I think they're spending too much time on the wrong things, and consequently they're not as educated as they should be, particularly this year with the voting, particularly.
I had introduced Laura at a book signing. I think it was 2004, 2005, and we had a small reception before the actual book signing. You know, it was like a VIP reception, and so I had to escort her around the VIP reception. We got her photograph taken, and so together. And then some friends of mine were there, and they had their baby with them. Now, she referenced that she's adopted children last night. She loves kids. And she grabbed their baby and got her picture taken from all sorts of different angles with their baby and then with the entire family. And when they sent out their Christmas cards the following year, it was the family with Laura holding the baby. And she gave a great speech that night and was wonderful. We had about 500 people turn out, and they had to stand outside in weather that was about 30 degrees in order to get inside and see her. And they were real troopers about that.
Oh, well, that's what I just think, that this would be a very wise thing, because she is definitely the kind of person that relates to people very well.
And if, you know, she would never take the pay cut, but she'd be great in that administration.
Right.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Bill. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you. Take care now. We have another caller with us. You're up next. You're on the air with Bill Colley on KLIX at 10 minutes from 10 o'clock. Go ahead. Try again. 736-0300. That's 736-0300. And you're on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and News Radio 1310.com.
Yes, Bill. I'm calling back. I have a classic example of government inefficiency if you want me to go ahead.
Sure. Fire away.
Okay. I know. I just want to respect your program. In 1984, south of Burley, there's a place called Goose Creek Reservoir or Oakley Reservoir. I call it Oakley Reservoir. And it was going to overflow the banks. And the Bureau of Reclamation was him-hawing around, and they weren't sure what the hell they were going to do. And the local farmers, people got together. They dug a canal over to the Snake River, and they averted a disaster. Because the first guy that would lose his topsoil would be right out of the gate there, see? And how fair can that be? But you see, the Bureau of Reclamation was standing there around him-hawing, and they just were they were never going to get the job done because of red tape, see?
Well, this is a good lead-in. There's a story out today. I think it's at Real Clear Politics. Chris Christie was briefing a group of people in a private meeting yesterday, and they came out and they said, Trump has vowed he's going to go into Washington with a big firing stick, and he's going to start getting rid of a lot of the dead weight. If Congress will change a few wording and a few laws, he's going to start getting rid of a lot of dead weight in the bureaucracy.
Well, if you don't mind, up in Okanagan County, Washington, there was a backfire started, and there was 1 million acres burnt, and so the backfire, the ranchers say, was what caused the loss of private property, cabins, cattle were burnt to death, fences, corrals, outbuildings, tractors, and these poor ranchers were left off the hook. Not only did they lose private property, but they no longer have grazing. And the Forest Service said, well, you can't prove that the backfire that we started is what caused the burn of your private property. And this is the kind of government that we get. And I'll hang up. Thanks, Bill.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and you shouldn't let people from Washington play with matches. That's the lesson of all of that. It's 9:52, and you're up next. You're on KLIX.
I'm not positive, but I think the last caller just nailed it. Something I was just going to mention. All you have to look at is January, February this year, whenever they had the whole so-called occupation. That all started whenever they were ranchers that were literally told that if they did put out a fire, they would be arrested.
Yes.
And the cattle were being burned alive. And if that should piss everybody off, but I know it doesn't. Nobody seems to care. These guys can easily handle it better than the BLM.
I'm looking at a picture of this sage grouse here. They would be upset if someone actually accidentally walked over the top of one of these things. But again, burning cattle alive, that's considered. I guess cattle don't have nerve endings.
They had video of it. I mean, you can't even deny it. They had video. I looked at it on the internet. Video of the BLM telling them they better not or they will be arrested. I couldn't believe it.
This is why we need to return to the federalist system where states make most of these decisions. The federal government simply concentrates on keeping the roads open. Thank you for the call. The roads open for trade and provides for a common defense. There's really nothing more than that the federal government, that was Madison's early ideal was, we know, and you know what? If in New Jersey or Connecticut or Rhode Island or one of those other communist states, maybe we shouldn't throw New Jersey in there because Christie is at least trying to swim upstream. And I know there's a joke in there. Please, he needs to be out of the bay, right? But I'm telling you right now, when I hear those people all talk about gun control and the like, well, they want a blueprint, one size fits all. The fact of the matter is, the federalist system said, all right, if you want to live like that and endanger your people and they want to go along with it, because they'll vote you out otherwise, you can do that. But don't tell me how we're going to live over here in South Carolina or Nebraska or Idaho or Oregon. That's the whole message of all of that. That was the ideal design when it was created, and we have just run roughshod over it. There's nothing left of it. And this is why, again, you get bureaucrats out of Washington, most of whom come out of some suburban environment east of Chicago. They've got no clue what they're talking about in this part of the country. It's 9:54. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com. Look, I got one other story to mention to you, and it's about these guys yesterday. Some of you, if you were traveling on the north end of Twin Falls, may have seen them yesterday. A group of men who were dressed in white, yet with bloodstains on their clothes, were holding up signs protesting circumcision. You know, with all of the problems in this country, I'm sure that you're saying to yourself, you know what? Circumcision is the most serious one, and if we could just bring it to an end. And one guy is holding a sign saying, circumcision causes at least 16 problems. I guess he's been counting them all. And then they're not from here. They were like from San Francisco, but they decide they're traveling the country to warn people about the horrors of circumcision. And so here they are, people driving by wondering, what are these freaks up to? My guess is they talk about all of the problems and they're thinking about what they've experienced then on their own, right? They're trying to tell you about what they have witnessed. And so that might mean in their own lives failure to perform. So now, or they've had, they just have not been chick magnets. And they have discovered, obviously, that it's not their fault. It's the fault of the circumciser. There you go. Also, one of my coworkers, Nate Bird, got a great photograph. You see these guys standing in the street waving their placards. And way off in the background is a great big sign from a sporting goods store. And, well, we'll leave it to your imagination on that one. This is a family show. I didn't get to this event, but I was working on some things here at the office, so I was unable to attend with the rest of my coworkers the check presentation yesterday from A Cash for Kids. So I didn't make it to this event, but my coworkers all got to witness it, and they tell me it was perhaps the most comical thing that they've ever seen. About 1 minute to go. You're up next. You're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
Is that me?
Yes.
Yeah, did you, I'm not sure how long ago this happened. I'm not sure if it was a congressman or a senator, but they were talking about putting in a bunch of new cattle guards in Idaho. And the congressman or senator goes, Well, I'm not really against it, but how much money is it going to cost to train all these guards? That's how stupid these people are.
Well, from a liberal perspective, it's a jobs program, right? Thank you much for the telephone call, sir. I took some pictures. I was driving out. Oh gosh, I was on a long drive a couple of weeks ago, and I took some pictures of some cattle, out on free range, and I come from a part of the country where they're always fenced. Well, not always. In fact, oftentimes they figure out how to get outside. But I took some photographs, and I just posted those, and some of my urban Facebook friends were like amazed that these cattle are grazing alongside of the road. It's like, well, yeah. Because frankly, I'm about the only threat to them driving down the road that they'll see sometimes for days at a time. 9:58, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Rush Limbaugh following the news at 10 o'clock from Fox. Sean Hannity following news from Fox at 1 o'clock this afternoon. After Fox at 4 o'clock today, Glenn Beck, Dave Ramsey tonight, and God willing, if the creek don't rise. I get to come back and do this all over again tomorrow morning. It's Friday, between 8 and 10 o'clock. Friday is a wonderful day.